Your dog is standing in the corner with its forehead pressed flat against the wall. It is not sniffing. It is not sleeping. It is just standing there, leaning into the plaster as if the wall is holding it up. The easy explanation is that the dog is being stubborn, or weird, or lost in a dream. But the real reason is older and stranger than any of those. Veterinarians have a name for what your dog is doing: head pressing. Why would a vet's voice tighten at two words as plain as those? Because head pressing means something deep inside the animal's brain has gone wrong. Not wrong in the small everyday way. Wrong in the way of a compass that has lost north. Here's the strange part. A cow with a sick brain will do the exact same thing. It will walk to a fence, push its skull against the boards, and stand there for hours. A sheep will press its head into a barn wall and not move. A goat will do it against a gate. One behavior in animals that share almost nothing else. Why would a dog, a cow, and a sheep all press their heads against something solid and stay there? The answer lives in a system your dog carries inside its skull. A system far older than dogs themselves. Inside your dog's brain, there is a map of space. Not a picture and not a memory. A living map drawn in the firing of millions of brain cells, updating with every step. How does a brain even know where it is? Scientists stumbled onto the answer almost by accident. In 1971, a researcher named John O'Keefe was recording the electrical activity of single brain cells in rats. He noticed something that should have been impossible. A given cell fired only when the rat stood in one particular spot in its box. Move the rat to the other side, and that cell went silent. Bring it back, and the same cell lit up again. The cell was not responding to smell or sound or hunger. It was responding to place. O'Keefe called them place cells. By listening to them alone, he could tell where a rat was in the box. Then in the 1980s, a researcher named James Rank found a second piece of the system. Nearby cells fire whenever the animal's head points in a particular direction. Turn the head one way, and one set of cells sings. Turn it another way, and a different set takes over. The brain, it turned out, keeps its own compass. What does that compass let an animal do? It lets your dog wake in a pitch-black room and pad straight to the water bowl. It lets a wolf cross unfamiliar forest and still know which way the den lies. It lets a cow find the gap in the hedge she last saw at dawn. And then came the most elegant discovery of all. In 2005, two neuroscientists named May-Britt Moser and Edvard Moser found cells that fire in a perfect six-sided grid. Imagine invisible graph paper laid over the floor. Each hexagon marks a coordinate in space. As the animal walks, the grid moves with it, measuring distance with astonishing precision. Those cells are called grid cells. They are the ruler built into the map. Place cells say where you are. Head direction cells say which way you are facing. Grid cells measure how far you have gone. Together they form a navigation system so complete that in 2014, O'Keefe and the Mosers shared the Nobel Prize for it. Some prizes go to grand abstractions. This one went to a map inside the brain. And here is what matters most for your dog. So what happens when that map breaks? The list of things that break it is grim, but it matters. Liver disease is one of the most common culprits. A failing liver lets toxins build up in the bloodstream. Those toxins slip past the brain's defenses and begin to poison it. Vets call the result hepatic encephalopathy, which means a brain muddled by a failing liver. A brain tumor can bend the map out of shape. It crowds the navigation centers until the coordinates blur. One hard blow to the skull can scramble the compass in a single instant. But there's one cause that hides in puppies, looks normal, and is missed until a puppy presses its head against the wall. In many young dogs, the cause is something called a liver shunt. A shunt is a detour in the blood vessels, a shortcut that lets unfiltered blood sneak past the liver and pour straight toward the brain. The dog is born with it, and one of the first outward signs is often this: a puppy standing with its head against the wall, swaying slightly, as if listening to something no one else can hear. What is going on behind that puppy's eyes? To a vet, the image is an emergency. Not a quirk, not a mood, not a bad habit. An emergency. Because the wall tells the vet that the brain's map has already begun to fail. But that raises a harder question. Why a wall? Of all the things a broken brain could make an animal do, why press the skull against something cold and solid and push? Here is the idea that ties the whole picture together. When the internal map fails, the world stops feeling anchored. Up and down stop being certain. The floor may feel as if it is tilting. No one can ask a dog what that feels like. But what is the one thing in the room that never moves? The wall. A wall against the forehead is real and constant and still. It does not shift or tilt or spin. It is the most reliable fact left in the room. Pressing into it floods the brain with touch signals and pressure signals, the sensation of every muscle holding firm. Those signals become a new compass. They say in the only language a brain understands, here. Here's solid. Here's where you are. The wall is not the problem. The wall is the anchor. No experiment has fully proven this final step. The brain is hard to watch from the inside, but the behavior itself is the evidence. What is your dog actually doing? It is using its skin to hold a broken map together, and this is why the same gesture appears in animals that never learned it from each other. A cow's brain carries the same navigation circuits as a dog's. A sheep's does too. A goat's does too. When those circuits are poisoned or squeezed or starved, the animal reaches for the same solution, a fixed surface. So why does the same gesture appear again and again across species that never learned it? Veterinary textbooks have described head pressing in cattle for more than a century. A dog in a living room and a cow in a barn, 1,000 miles apart, both pressing their heads against something that cannot move. Why would a sick cow do what a sick dog does? Because the behavior was never learned. It is built into the wiring itself. It is older than dogs and cattle, older than the split between hunter and grazer. It reaches back to whatever ancient four-legged ancestor first carried this map through the world. The wall, the fence, the gate. To a breaking compass, all of them are the same thing, north in solid form. So here is the quiet twist in all of this. When your dog presses its head against a wall, it is not hiding anything. It is showing you the wiring. A broken compass cannot point to north, but it still proves that north exists. The failure is the proof of the system. What does an animal have to be carrying in its skull? For an unmoving wall to become essential, it has to be carrying a map. A map so detailed and alive that losing it changes what the world feels like. Your dog does not press against the wall because it is foolish. It presses against the wall because some ancient part of it is searching for north, and the wall is the only north it can still feel. Why should any of this matter to you? Because the same system runs inside your own head. Human brains have place cells and grid cells too. The Nobel Committee did not call the 2014 prize a discovery about rats. It called it a discovery about an internal positioning system that humans share. The brain region where grid cells live is called the entorhinal cortex. And here's a fact worth sitting with. The entorhinal cortex is one of the very first regions damaged in Alzheimer's disease. What is one of the earliest signs? Getting lost, losing the route to the grocery store, standing in a familiar kitchen and not knowing which way the door is. The same machinery that guides a wolf to its den is the machinery that tells you where your bedroom is in the dark. When it breaks, a person may not press their head against a wall, but a person can stand in a hallway and feel the same quiet unmooring a sick dog feels. The map is shared. So is the loss of it. One last thing, said plainly, because it matters. What should you do if you ever see an animal doing this? Do not wait to see if it passes. Do not treat it as a curiosity. Get the animal to a vet. Head pressing is one of the clearest signals evolution ever painted on an animal's body. It means the map is failing. And sometimes, if the cause is caught early, the map can be saved. But the same map can fail in a healthy human brain too, for a few strange seconds. You have almost certainly felt it. Wake feverish in a dark bedroom, and you may not know which wall the door is in. Where is the door? Which wall holds the window? For a few heartbeats, you're standing exactly where the sick dog stands. The next time you walk to your front door in the dark without thinking, remember what made that possible. Your dog, standing with its forehead pressed flat against the wall, is not lost in a dream. It is an ancient compass, broken, and it is pressing itself against the only north it can still feel. Key moments. Keyword. Forehead pressed flat. Sentence. 1. Keyword. Head pressing. Sentence. 8. Keyword. Lost north. Sentence. 12. Keyword. Place cells. Sentence. 34. Keyword. Hides and puppies. Sentence. 68. Keyword. The anchor. Sentence. 98. Keyword. Solid form. 120. Keyword. Alzheimer's disease. Sentence. 139. Keyword. To a vet. Sentence. 153. Keyword. Ancient compass. Sentence. 165. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel. There's much more to discover.